All right. Yeah, welcome to today's colloquium. A little bit delayed, but we can start now. Today, Shyam Datta from our place, Department of Mathematics of RKM Veri, will talk about vector measures, a brief discussion. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. First of all, good afternoon to everyone, and thanks to Stefan sir for arranging a slot for me. Uh, and today we will discuss a topic on vector measures, and we will see how the usual concepts in the real value measures are actually generalized in case of vector value measures. So let us start with some definitions. Okay. First, suppose that omega is any set and scriptf is a field on it, and throughout this talk I will denote a field by scriptf, and whenever I will talk of sigma, then it will be a sigma field on omega. And let us assume that x is a Banach space, then a function f from scriptf to x is called a vector measure if it is finitely additive. That is, for any disjoint collection of sets in scriptf, if this happens, f of union ak is equal to summation of f ak. And here is an example. So suppose T is a linear, continuous linear map from L infinity 0, 1 to x. Then if we define f from the all Lebesgue measurable sets on 0, 1 to x by this definition, f is equal to T of chi, then this defines a vector measure because of the linearity of f. And a vector measure is called countably additive if it satisfies this property as well. That whenever you take a disjoint collection of countably many sets in scriptf with the union is in scriptf, then it satisfies that f of union ak is equal to summation f ak. And this summation is taken in the norm topology of x. And here is an example that if you take T from L101 to X, which is a continuous linear map, and sigma is the measurable sets in 0, 1, then if you define F is equal to T of chi, then T is countably additive. Because if you actually calculate this difference, that F of union En minus summation F n, that becomes F of union n equal to n plus n, and this is less or equal to norm t times measure of this union. And since we are in a finite measure space, this actually goes to 0. So this partial sums actually converges to this term. That is why this is a countably additive vector measure. Okay, there are some examples which are not countably additive as well. Here is an example. That is, if we fix any x in 0, 1, then we take the point mass functionals, that is defined as delta x of f is equal to fx for all f belongs to C01. Then these are actually linear functionals in C01. Then they can be extended to L infinity 01 by Hand-Banach theorem. Then if you define f from scriptf to r as f is equal to tx of chi, then f is not a countably additive vector measure. So first of all, f is absolutely continuous with respect to lambda, and this follows very easily. And then if you apply the Redon-Nikodym theorem, then you will get a Redon-Nikodym derivative g, which is actually an integrable function with respect to Lebesgue measure, such that f is equal to integration of g d lambda. Okay, then Tx of chi is equal to integration g d lambda, because we have already defined fe by tx of chi e, and this holds for any simple function in this L infinity 0 1. And since the simple functions here are dense in L infinity 0 1 and tx is a continuous linear map, continuous extension of delta x, so tx of f is equal to this holds for any f in L infinity 0 1. In particular, if you choose f from C01, then you can show that fx is equal to integration fg d lambda, and therefrom again the density of C01, you can derive that integration f of d delta x is equal to fg d lambda, because delta x is a linear function of C01, so it is just a regular Borel measure on 01. That is why fx is equal to integration of fd delta x, and this holds for any L1 01. So in particular, if you choose f is equal to chi e, then this also holds, and chi e of d delta x is simply delta x of e is equal to g d lambda over e. But this cannot happen, because if you take e is equal to singleton x, then this part becomes 1, but this part becomes 0, because e is a set of Lebesgue measure 0. E means singleton x. That is why tx cannot be countably additive. So actually we can find uncountably many vector measures which are not countably additive. Okay, now let us shift our attention to the different topics, variation and semi-variation. So variation of a vector measure f is defined as a function from scripted to the extended non-negative real numbers, that is defined by variation on E is equal to supremum of pi summation norm of fa, where you take the supremum over all the sets, all the partitions which consists of the sets from scripted. And if in addition this holds, that is the total variation of f over omega is finite, then we say that f is a vector measure of bounded variation. And semi-variation is also a function from scripted to the non-negative real numbers, extended non-negative real numbers, which is defined as supremum of x star in bx star, and you take the supremum over all the variations of x star f, where x star f's are the real valued vector measures. Again, if you if the total semi-variation is finite, then you call the vector measure a finite semi-variation. And these are three important and trivial consequences, because here various semi-variation over E is lesser or equal to variation of E, variation over E. That is because of x is in bx star, so you can simply put it out and use that x star has norm lesser or equal to 1. So this is an easy consequence. And again, the norm of f is lesser or equal to variation over E. Why this? Because if you take the partition only singleton E, then this simply becomes greater than norm of Fe. And similarly for semi-variation and variation, these are two same for real valued vector measures, because if you put identity map here, then actually this supremum can be achieved. So in that case, semi-variation and variation both are same. Okay. Now here are some examples. Bounded variation, vector measure of bounded variation. So if you consider this example 2, what was that? You take Fe is equal to T of chi, where T is a linear continuous map from L101 to X. And if you take that, then if you calculate the variation of P, this summation, this is actually lesser or equal to norm T into lambda of A, because norm of F is lesser or equal to norm T into lambda of E. This holds for any E. And this becomes lesser or equal to norm T. And then if you take the supremum, then it becomes vector measure of finite variation. Okay, now here is an example which is of a bounded semi-variation, but not bounded variation. If you take f from sigma to L infinity 0, 1, which is defined as f e is equal to chi e, then you can actually find a partition of pi n, partition of e, call them e1, e2, en, which such that each has positive measure. Because we know that the Lebesgue measure is a non-atomic measure space, it has no atom, so you can do this kind of partition. And if you calculate this summation over pi n, then you can show that this is equal to n. And then taking the supremum, you can show that this just blows up to plus infinity. So f is a function of unbounded variation. But you can show that this is a function of bounded semi-variation from the next one. If you consider the example 1, and this was f is equal to t of chi, but t is a linear map from L infinity 0, 1 to x. In particular, if you take t is equal to identity map, then you can show that this is a function of bounded semi-variation. So we'll show this, because first we will take any x star from the closed unit ball in x star. Then if you calculate the semi-variation of x star f, then you need to calculate this sum. So this actually becomes summation a belongs to pi x star t of chi a. And then you can use linearity of x star t, and then you can show that this is lesser or equal to norm of t. So here from you can conclude that the semi-variation is actually finite. Now here is an example of a vector measure which is of unbounded semi-variation. So if you take the field of all finite and cofinite sets, the field of the power set of over natural numbers, then you can define this semi-variation as this vector measure by f e is equal to cardinality of e if e is finite, and minus of cardinality of e complement is if e is cofinite. Then if you take in particular x star is equal to identity of r, and take this partition of natural numbers, and if you calculate this becomes 2n. So for a particular linear functional in bx star, you get that semi-variation is actually plus infinity. So it is of it is the vector measure of unbounded semi-variation. Okay, now here are some easy consequences, easy results actually, that the variation is finitely additive. So these are very easy proofs, so I will not be proving this. But here from you can conclude that actually the variation of a vector measure, it is also a vector measure, because variation is finitely additive. Okay. And using this, you can conclude that variation is order preserving. That is, if A subset of B, then variation over B is greater or equal to variation over A. Also, semi-variation is subadditive, because you already you have already proved that variation is finitely additive. So applying this on x star f, you can prove this also. Okay. Now here is condition such that the vector measures of bounded variation is countably additive. So this condition actually says that a vector measure of bounded variation is countably additive if and only if its variation is also countably additive. So let us prove this. So suppose f is a vector measure of bounded variation. First, let us assume that its variation is finite, is countably additive. Then if you take any disjoint collection of sets in script f such that union is also in script f, then this holds that the summation of variation over ek is finite, because because variation is countably additive. We have already assumed that. And to show that f is countably additive, this if you calculate this difference, this is actually equal lesser or equal to this summation k equal to n plus 1 to infinity variation over ek, and this goes to 0 because this is a convergence sum. So f is also countably additive. Sorry. To do and for the other part, if you go to prove that if f is countably additive and you are going to prove that variation is also countably additive, you take a partition of union ek by partition of union of ek by members of script f. Okay, then you just calculate this summation a belongs to pi norm of fa. This becomes lesser or equal to variation over ek, and this holds for any pi for any partition pi of union of ek. So if you take supremum in this side, you can actually conclude that variation over union ek is lesser or equal to this sum of variation of ek. And the other inequality is clear because by finite additivity of variation, this holds, and by order preservingness, this holds for any n. So summation k is equal to 1 to infinity variation over ek is lesser or equal to variation over union of ek, and this proves that variation is also countably additive. Okay, so a vector measure of bounded variation is countably additive if and only if its variation is also countably additive. Now here is a characterization of semi-variation, which actually tells that if you take the semi-variation over set E, that is equal to the supremum over norm of summation an belongs to pi epsilon n f of an, where pi is a partition of E and epsilon n, this is a finite collection of sets whose norm is lesser or equal to whose modulus lesser or equal to 1. Okay, so for any partition pi and any collection of sets, if you calculate this sum, then you can easily show that this is actually lesser or equal to this is actually supremum of mod of x star of this quantity, such that x star belongs to b x star, because by Hand-Banach theorem you actually find an x star which actually attains this norm. So again, this is lesser or equal to summation of you are just putting out epsilon k's, and then this is also lesser or equal to supremum of summation k is equal to 1 to infinity x star f ek, and this is lesser or equal to supremum of variation over x star f e, and this is equal to semi variation over e. So for any member here, this is lesser or equal to semi variation. So taking supremum, so one side is actually established that this supremum is lesser or equal to semi variation over e. So to do the opposite part, opposite inequality. So if you take x star in bx star and pi any partition of E, then you see that this summation x star f of ak modulus is equal to actually sine of x star f ak times x star f ak, which is equal to modulus of x star. You are just using the linearity of x star, and this is further lesser or equal to sine of x star fak times fak. So, and now see that this is a member in this set, because sines are, because sine of x star f of ak, these are actually +1 or -1. So for each member, for each this kind of sum, you can find this kind of sum in the right hand side which dominates this. So taking supremum, you will get the reverse inequality. Okay. Now here is a very important result that will actually establish that the range of vector measure is bounded if and only if it is a vector measure of bounded semivariation. So this actually this inequality actually says that the semivariation of semivariation over E is bounded by supremum of norm of Fh, so that H subset of E and 4 times this supremum. Okay, so if you simply calculate this is equal to supremum of again for this norm of Fh. If you you can find a functional from x star such that this supremum actually this norm is actually attained. So, and again this is lesser or equal to supremum of variation over H, because mod of x star f H is lesser or equal to variation of x star f over H. And again by using the order preservingness of variation, this is lesser or equal to this supremum, which is semi-variation over E. So this inequality holds. And to do this inequality, we first prove this for real Banach spaces, and then you can actually split up these linear functionals into real and imaginary parts, so that you can actually put this bound by 4, increase this bound by another by 2 multiple. So first, if you take any partition over E and x star in bx star, then you call this set all n such that x star Fn is positive and all n such that x star Fn is negative. So if you calculate this sum, so this is equal to summation n belongs to pi plus x star Fn plus summation n belongs to pi minus this. And by counter by since x star is a vector measure, you can actually put this union here also the same. And both of these quantities are lesser or equal to supremum of non-FH, such that A is subset of E. So this actually tells you that semivariation of x star f is lesser or equal to this quantity for any for any x star. So semivariation of f is lesser or equal to 2. And as we already said that you can just split up x star in real and imaginary parts in case of case of complex Banach spaces, you can also put this bound, increase this bound to 4. Okay. Now let us see how we integrate the functions from omega to the real numbers with respect to a vector measure. So we'll not actually consider integrals, but our main aim is to actually investigate the bounded vector measures from script f to x. How do they look like? So that is our goal. So as we have already done in real case, we first do it for simple functions and then do for uh, the functions which are measurable, actually the uniform limit of simple functions. Here also we will do the same. First, if you take a simple function which is of this form, so that alpha is the non-zero and A is the disjoint, then if you define this map TF from the space of all simple functions on x, on omega to x, by this TF of f is equal to summation of alpha of f ei, then this defines a continuous linear map actually. And let us denote by b of script f the space of all functions which are uniform limit of the simple functions. Then we can actually show that you can extend this TF from script s to BF. For example, if you take a G in BF, B script f, then you can write this as G is equal to limit of Gn, such that Gns are also simple functions, and this is G is the uniform limit of Gn. So you can simply extend it by this way, that TF tilde of G is equal to limit of TF of Gn. Now, if we see that norm of TF is actually the infinity norm of the supremum of F times the semi-variation of omega. So if we check that TF is, if we check the norm of TF, then it can be easily shown that norm of TF is also lesser or equal to norm of the semi-variation over omega, because norm of TF is lesser or equal to semi-variation. And we have just extended this definition in a very natural way. So here also the norm of TF will also be lesser or equal to the semi-variation over omega. Okay, now we integrate as a function from BF. We define this integral by TF tilde of f. First of all, notice that the TF tilde is a vector. It is actually a vector. So TF tilde it takes value in x. So the integral is actually a vector. Okay, now these are two easy observations, that TF of that integration of FDF is lesser or equal to this, because we have already shown that TF of f is lesser or equal to infinity norm of f times semi-variation of f. So this holds. Again, if you take any linear functional, then x star of this vector is equal to f of d of x star f. That is, if you are considering the integral with respect to this vector measure, x star of f, which is a real valued vector measure actually. Okay. Now this is a theorem which actually characterizes all the vector measures, all the bounded vector measures over a field. So if script f is a field on omega, and you can construct actually one linear correspondence between the linear transformations from BF to X and the space of all bounded vector measures f from script f to x, because for any f we have already constructed this linear functional tf tilde from bf to x. So for each f there exists a linear functional from bf to x, and for the other way around, if you take any linear functional t from bf t from say bf to x, then also you can define a vector measure f from script f to x by f of e is equal to simply t of chi e. So that will be a bounded vector measure. So by this way we can actually uh, get a linear correspondence. And also this happens that norm of tf tilde is equal to semi-variation over omega. So we have already seen that semi-variation over omega dominates norm of tf tilde. Sorry, tf tilde, yes, norm of tf tilde. But equality is a bit challenging part, but we can show this using using this one. Okay, so I've not written this down, but this is big challenging part. But for the time being, let us take it for granted that this tf tilde, norm of tf tilde is equal to semi-variation of f over omega. We shall use this to do a consequence of Nikodym boundedness theorem later. Okay. Now here are some definitions: strongly additive vector measures. So suppose f is a set from script f to x, then we call that this is a strongly additive vector measure if for any disjoint collection of script f this summation converges. That is, for any epsilon positive you can find n0 such that the tail term can be made less than epsilon whenever n exceeds n0. Okay, now we'll extend this definition for a class of vector measures. We say that these vector measures f tau from script f to x such that tau belongs to t is uniformly strongly additive if you can actually make this tail lesser or equal to epsilon whenever n is greater or equal to epsilon, n is greater or equal to n0, and this n0 doesn't actually depend upon any t. So that is why we call this uniform. So actually if f tau ek, summation f tau ek is convergent and this norm is lesser or equal to epsilon irrespective of any tau. Okay, and then there is a result that a vector measure of bounded variation is strongly additive. So if you take a disjoint family of sets, then for any k, summation n equal to 1 to k, norm of Fn is lesser or equal to variation over union of En. Because this is because of the definition of variation. And further, this is lesser or equal to the total variation of f, and this is finite because we have already assumed that. And this shows that this summation is absolutely convergent. And since we are in a Banach space, every absolutely convergent sequence, every absolutely convergent sum is actually convergent. So this sum is actually convergent in X. And this implies that the vector measure is strongly additive. This is a very important example which actually shows that shows an example of a countably additive vector measure whose variation is plus infinity for every non-trivial set. For that is non-trivial, by non-trivial we mean the set of positive Lebesgue measure. Okay, if you take omega is equal to 0 1 and sigma is the Lebesgue measurable sets in 0 1, then if you take x is equal to LP 0 1 and define f from the Lebesgue measurable sets to x as Fe is equal to chi, then you can show that its variation over E is finite, is plus infinity whenever lambda E is positive. So first of all, see that this is a countably additive vector measure, because if you see at this difference, this actually tends to 0 because we are in a finite measure space. This lambda actually goes to 0. So F is actually countably additive. Okay. Now, since Lebesgue measure has no atom, so you can actually uh, take a partition of E into n many sets such that lambda of Ek is equal to lambda of E by n for every k. And summation of k equal to n, some norm of f of Ek is equal to lambda of E, because you are just putting this definition of f. And if you calculate this, this becomes in power 1 minus 1 by p times lambda E to the power 1 by p. And this goes to infinity as n tends to infinity. So this actually tells you that variation of E is equal to plus infinity. Now here are some equivalences which actually characterizes the uniformly strongly additive vector measures. So this set from a field scripted to X is uniformly strongly additive if and only if this set x star f tau such that x star belongs to b x star and tau belongs to t, this is also uniformly strongly additive. These two are equivalent. And again, if you take a pairwise disjoint subclass of script f, then this limit n tends to infinity, norm of f tau en, this goes to 0. And as we have already seen that the various semi-variation and the range both are interconnected. So this goes to 0, actually intuitionally gives you this result, that semi-variation over n is also converges to 0. And that is also equivalent to this class of measures, that is variation over x star f tau, such that tau belongs to t, x star belongs to b x star. This is also uniformly strongly additive. Now, these proofs are very simple, a sort of epsilon delta type proofs, and anybody can check this. So I've written down, I will not be presenting this, but this is some sort of important equivalences. Okay. Now we'll now here is a corollary which is actually written down for a single strongly additive vector measures. Now F is strongly additive vector measure if and only if these five equivalences actually come from the previous one. So these are actually same, and two more equivalences are added here. That is, limit of n tends to infinity Fn exists for any non-decreasing sequence En, and limit n tends to infinity exists for any non-increasing sequence also. So I shall prove this one, the equivalence of 6 and 7 with this. Now first 5 equivalences are actually follows from the previous result. So if we take this one, 1 implies 6, that is in a family of increasing sets, then we can in a very natural way form disjoint sets, a collection of disjoint sets from this. And since f is strongly additive, these disjoint sets, which are defined by fn is equal to en minus en minus 1, so this sum actually is equal to f of en. And since f is strongly additive, this limit actually exists. So limit of fn exists. Similar for the other one, for the 7. There is a result that a strongly additive vector measure on a field is bounded. So suppose that if it is unbounded, that is the semi variation over omega is plus infinity, then you can then the range is also the range is also infinite. So there exists some h1 belongs to script f such that this norm exceeds this particular quantity. And again, if you use the triangle inequality, and then you can show that norm of f h1 complement is also greater or equal to 1. So, and now if you take the attention in h1 and h1 complement, and since variation over omega is plus infinity, so at least one of the semi variations must be plus infinity. So if semi variation over h1 is plus infinity, we take e1 is equal to h1, and if this one is plus infinity, we take e1 is equal to h1 complement. So in this way, you can actually produce a sequence of sets en which satisfies semi variation over en is equal to plus infinity, and norm of f of en is greater or equal to n. But this cannot happen because this is, if this is strongly additive, limit of fen exists for a decreasing for a non-decreasing sequence. Okay, so this limit cannot limit of fen cannot exist because norm of fen is greater or equal to n for n or all n. So f cannot be bounded. So f has to be bounded. Sorry. Now there is concept of absolute continuity, which is actually extended to in case of vector measures as well. We know that two measures from sigma to the non-negative dls are called absolutely continuous. That is, mu is absolutely continuous with respect to nu if mu vanishes on every set of nu measure 0. And this equivalence holds for in case of real valued vector by real valued measures, non-negative real valued measures. And if you take two non-negative real valued measures and where mu is finite, then the mu absolutely continuous with respect to nu if and only if limit of nu tends to 0, mu e is equal to 0. So we prove this by taking the by contradicting the other way. So this part is pretty much trivial, that limit of mu e goes to 0, mu e 0 implies mu is absolutely continuous with respect to nu. To do the opposite way, we produce a set lim sup of ej which is of nu measure 0 but mu measure positive. So in this way we can produce the contradiction. But in case of vector measures, we cannot follow this equivalence straightforward. Here we need a sigma field. If you take a sigma field from script f to x and f countably additive vector measure, then only the equivalences hold. This equivalence holds. This equivalence holds if and only if we take the sigma field. So this assumption is very much important here also. Okay, but I will not prove this because here we need some machineries that we have already developed, but the proof idea is almost same, because if you construct this set, AF is equal to lim sup of AG, and for that set you will just show that this doesn't actually satisfy uh, the required condition. Okay, so Petty's theorem doesn't hold for a vector measure on a sigma field. So if you take this sigma field of finite and cofinite subsets, then if you define f1 from is equal to cardinality of E, if E is finite, and minus of cardinality of E complement if E is cofinite, then f1 is a vector measure. And similarly, if you define mu1 is defined by summation of n belongs to E, sorry, n belongs to E to the power minus n, then you can show that f1 is not mu1 continuous, because f1 of en goes to is a 1 for any en is equal to singleton n, but this limit goes to 0. So f1 is not actually countably additive. So we will just make it countably additive by just changing the appearance of this sigma field for this field. By Stone representation theorem, we can actually produce a compact, housed up and totally disconnected topological space such that the Clopin subsets is isomorphic to script f. Then you can show that this in this case, if this countable union belongs to script f, this actually becomes a finite union, because if this is in script f, then this is actually a Clopin set, in particular a closed set in a compact set, and the closed set in a compact set is also compact. So all but finitely many n are finite, are phi. So you can extend this definition of f1 to this sigma field as well in a very natural way, and you can show that Petty's theorem doesn't hold, because f is not mu continuous, because we have already shown that f1 is not mu1 continuous. So here Petty's theorem doesn't hold. Okay, now uniform absolute mu continuity. Okay, so a collection of vector measures on a sigma field is called uniformly absolutely continuous with respect to a finite measure, real valued finite measure, if this happens: limit of mu tends to 0, norm of f tau e 0 uniformly in T. That is, for any epsilon positive, there exists some delta positive such that this quantity is less than epsilon whenever mu is less than delta, and this delta doesn't depend upon any T. So this is the definition of uniform absolutely mu continuity. And here is a structure theorem. This is called a structure theorem for vector measures, for uniformly bounded and countably additive vector measures. That this actually tells you that if you have a uniformly bounded and countably additive vector measures on a sigma field sigma, then the collection is uniformly countably additive if there exists a finite measure mu such that this collection of vector measures is uniformly mu continuous. So This proof is also highly non-trivial, and I will not present this. So I'll skip this one. But the corollary actually says that the that you have told that there exists a finite measure which such that this collection is absolutely continuous with respect to that finite measure, and this corollary actually tells you that this finite measure can be chosen such that mu e is in between this region 0 and supremum of uh, variation of f tau e for any e. So this actually tells you that mu equals to 0 if and only if uh, supremum of semi-variation of f tau e goes to 0. Okay, now this is written down for a single measure. So these are actually same. Okay, now this is a very important theorem about the range of vector measures. So if you take a countably additive vector measure on sigma field sigma and codomain X, then F has a relatively weakly compact range. And by the previous theorem, you can actually choose a finite measure mu such that F is absolutely continuous with respect to mu. Now, if we take this map, TF is equal to L infinity mu with equipped with weak star topology, and the right hand side equipped with weak topology. If you define TF is equal to integration of FDF, then you first our goal is just to show that T is actually continuous. So first you choose any x star, and x star of TF is equal to x star of integration of FDF, which is again equal to integration of f of dx star f, and this is equal to f of this redundant f into this redundant Nicodim derivative of x star f with respect to mu, because f is absolutely continuous with respect to mu, so x star f is also absolutely continuous with respect to mu. So this is again equal to integration of fg d mu. Now if you take any net in this set, which star converges to f0, then you can show that limit of x star tf alpha goes to x star of tf alpha, and x star is arbitrarily chosen. So tf alpha weak star weakly converges to tf0, and hence t is continuous. So, and again by Banach-Alaoglu theorem, which actually states that every closed unit ball, a closed ball of radius r is weak star compact. So here also this closed unit ball is weak star compact in L infinity mu. So TB is weakly compact with respect to weakly compact in X, because T is the continuous map. So TB is also weakly compact. And note that this range, you can write this like T of F is equal to T of chi e, and all chi e are in this B. So this is a subset of TB. That is, the range is a subset of compact set in weak topology in X. So the range is weakly relatively compact. And this is called the Nicodim boundedness theorem, which actually resembles a theorem from Banach space theory, which actually tells you that if you have a continuous linear map T from x to y, where x is a nonlinear space, if if you take the collection of maps, if you take a collection of maps from a nonlinear from a Banach space to a nonlinear space, if these maps are pointwise bounded, then they are uniformly bounded. So this kind of theorem also holds for in case of vector measures as well. I don't know how these are related, but this says that if you take a family of bounded vector measures, and if this supremum is pointwise bounded, that is for any fixed t, this is bounded for any fixed t, then this actually implies that the family of bounded vector measures is also the family is uniformly bounded. Okay, this proof is also uh, very non-trivial, so I will skip this proof. Okay, and this is a important corollary of this theorem that tells you that if sigma is a sigma field on omega and T alpha is a subclass of this, such that supremum of T alpha of chi is finite for any E, then supremum of T alpha is finite. That is T alpha, this subclass is uniformly bounded. So as we have seen that this set, this subcollection, then sorry, this set of linear transformations, continuous linear transformations from B sigma to X is actually isometrically isomorphic to the vector measures from sigma to X. So you can actually take the copies of T alpha in that space of vector measures. If you call them F alpha, then you can show that these vector measures are pointwise bounded at every E. And from Nikodym boundedness theorem, you can be able to conclude that this supremum, that is supremum of T alpha, this is finite, because that is the isometrically isomorphic copy of this to the bounded vector measures from sigma to X. Okay. Now here is an example which actually shows that Nikodym boundedness theorem may fail for field of sets. So this is a very easy example. I will not prove this. Okay. So the next one is also a theorem called the Diordon-Grothendieck theorem. So this theorem actually tells that if f is a x valued set function, here we have not assumed that this is a vector measure. If you have a set function from a sigma field sigma to X, then if you take that x star f is bounded and finitely additive for each x star in gamma, where gamma is a total subset of x star, that is span of gamma is dense in x star, then we'll be able to show that f is a bounded vector measures. So first, if you want to show that this is a bounded vector measure, you just need to show that this quantity is 0 for any two disjoint sets E1 and E2. So if this is non-zero, then you can find a linear function on x star such that norm of x is equal to this. And again, by totality of this set gamma, you can find a member within this epsilon distance. Then you can be able to show that norm of x is actually lesser or equal to epsilon times norm of x, which is possible if and only if x is 0. So f is finitely additive. And it only remains to show that f is bounded. So showing boundedness is actually easy. Okay, so if we need to show that f is bounded, we actually need to see that x star f is bounded for every x star, because semi-variation of x star is supremum of this. And then we'll use the Nikodym boundedness principle. So first we collect all those x star f such that whose total variation are finite. And you can show that M is a linear subspace that contains gamma. So M also contains the span of gamma, which is dense So M is also dense in non-topology. So it is also dense with respect to the Weak-Star topology as well. So if we want to show that this M is closed, then closed with respect to Weak-Star topology, then M is equal to X star. In order to do this, we actually need Kreins-Mullian theorem, which actually tells you that a convex set actually is closed, Weak-Star closed, if its intersection with respect to every closed unit ball of radius r is also Weak-Star closed. But since this M is subspace, so in case of M, we only need to show this intersection, M intersection B star is Weak-Star closed. And if we fix any E belongs to E in sigma, then all these X star F are pointwise bounded. So by Nikodym boundedness theorem, X star F, the supremum of X star belongs to M1. Supremum E belongs to sigma X star F E. That is also finite. Now, suppose that we already we have to show that every Weak-Star limit point of M1 is also in M1. So if you take a net in M1 which converges to X0 star, then it has norm lesser or equal to 1, that is this belongs to Bx star, and X0 star if is bounded, because X0 star of Fe is equal to limit of this, and since we have this equality that this k is finite, this supremum is actually finite, so for every alpha this is lesser or equal to k, so limit of this also lesser or equal to k. So this shows that X0 star F has a bounded range, that is X0 star F is bounded, which implies that X0 lies within X0 lies within this M1. So M1 is Weak-Star closed. And there are many more results which are important and which relates the range of a vector measure. But okay, for the lack of time, I have not included those ones. Okay, so thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much for the nice talk. Are there any questions?
Yes, thanks a lot, Shamul, for a very nice introduction to vector measure. So, this is just a general query. So, did you also get to look at the Carathéory extension for the vector measures?
No, I have not.
Okay, but maybe if in future you can also have a look at that, and also the Rader-Nikodym theory for the Bochner integrals, and give another talk on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So from my side, a general question, what are applications of vector measures and which fields are they applied? Did you look into that?
No. No,
I mean,
not seen that.
obviously, nice extension of measures, or a meaningful extension of measures, but would be interesting where they are applied.
I have not seen this.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions? Yeah, if not, then let's thank the speaker again for a very interesting talk. And you can unmute and applaud.
That's great.
Yeah, would be nice if you give another talk. Sudeshna is called, he's mentioned Bochner integrals. And next time I will start it on time.
Okay. So
Good. Yeah, then we will have a next week. Do we have a talk actually? Yes, Dwaipan, right?
Yes, sir.
You have talk next week, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Good, then next week Dwaipan will talk, and I wish you all a nice weekend, and see you next week.
see you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.